And Steve McMichael passes away, 67 years old, dies of ALS. Everybody's been following that.
Right.
We were fortunate enough to be in Canton and
Yes.
when he was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame last summer. That was a great trip.
It was a great trip.
Chicago paid tribute, and today Bears fans mourn the loss of Mongo, a guy unlike any other, the epitome of that 85 Bears era and team, as valuable as anybody on that defense. And so today, there's sadness. There's probably a sense of grief mixed with relief because he's done suffering now.
Yes. I would agree with all those emotions. The life is difficult enough, but the finality of death is something that is a hard lesson to learn, and unfortunately, many of us have had to learn it. We've had to lose people close to us, and we've had to see people. There's something about Steve McMichael, the way he played, the kind of bigger-than-life personality, the tough guy sort of persona, and he was so much more than that, as all people are. But it was just so difficult to watch him take on ALS and battle this disease and the nature of the disease itself, and seeing a man like him dealing with it. And I got to tell you, there has been a lot of tributes, a lot of people pouring out things. I saw a thing online from Jarrett Payton where, just take a list. This is Jarrett 4 years ago when Steve had his diagnosis. Sat down with him and listened to this, and this is what humanity is all about.
You know what's best in the human condition, my son? Compassion. Not warrior, not competitor, not alpha. The compassion in the human being. And that, what's going on in the world today, you kind of lose faith in that, don't you? But everybody that comes into my presence, now that I'm in this condition, that's the first thing I see on their face. Man. And it reinvigorates your belief in humanity.
That's powerful.
It's so powerful.
And that was probably among the, not the last times that he was able to communicate, but communicate in a way that resonated to the extent those words do.
Agree.
And that's well put, Mully. And I think that when you understand what his loss means to people who were so close along this ride for the last 4 years, guys like Jarrett Payton, his entire family, the Bears community, I think that his death is also a reminder, we're talking about how he died and all that went into that because of ALS and how cruel the disease is, but it's also, we're celebrating how he lived. And he was this guy who was the life of every party. And he was the guy that reminded us in tough times you want to have compassion. And he was the toughest Bear there ever was. One of the undersized defensive tackle who played in 191 straight games. Got him into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And now you mourn his loss because of how I think it was fascinating to see not just the Bears fandom, not just former Bears players, but so many people in Chicago rally for his cause.
No question about it, David. And our thanks to Jared and to WGN. I believe he did that for WGN TV. And it's beautiful in his own words to hear him talk.
To remember what he sounded like and how much vitality was in his voice and the way that he did live every day until he was robbed of that right to do so. So, I'm glad we played that because people do maybe forget what Mongo was like down until he couldn't speak it any longer and he couldn't communicate in the way that he wanted to.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah,
and it's an incredible message to deliver with the loss of a guy like Steve McMichael. Very difficult one for all Bear fans, for all Bears players. But say a prayer for his wife, for his daughter, for his family, for all the people that were close to him.
They've been through so much. They have been through so many difficult times. The last 4 years specifically, And we know just that getting a little bit of a glimpse last summer as everything was shifted and the focus was on him and his struggles at Canton. And the Hall of Fame did a terrific job of honoring and treating his final days with dignity. And that's what you want, and that's what his legacy will be part of what he did as a player, but also how he lived and left us as a person. And that is special and worth remembering today.
And I mean, you think about all his teammates being there with him, surrounding him in those moments with the Hall of Fame stuff is beautiful. And there's so many people here in this town that just love the guy. And your heart goes out to anybody that feels a sense of loss today over that. Really understandable.
That the tributes will come pouring in, I'm sure, throughout the weekend, because this is draft day and it's an NFL 3-day extravaganza. And we'll see probably former players making draft picks. We'll see Ryan Poles at the podium. Ben Johnson will probably have something to say. The Bears family and community will pay their tribute to Steve McMichael. So he passes away on the eve of the NFL draft, and you spend the weekend. Yes, we're going to have all the information and all the opinions and all the analysis of all the draft picks. But we can also take time and pause just for a moment to remember Mongo, a guy who nobody will ever forget.
Yeah, it's really it was. I'm glad we played that, because I think it's important to hear that and hear it in his voice and understand that, as that voice was silenced, that's what was going on within him. That's the way he was thinking this through.
That's the voice he heard in his head.
That's it.
And that was a voice you'll never be duplicated.
Yeah, really
one of a kind.
Special.
If there ever was one.
Special cat.
Yeah.
No question about it.